So today's topic is something very close to my heart. It's called work-life harmony. Now, it's an interesting term that you don't hear a lot of. Having had my own businesses now for 18 years, I've just turned 50, right? So I've had businesses during a lot of different life stages. Work-life harmony has been something that has always been super important to me. And what I mean by that is, how do you weave your work life, particularly as a founder where your work life is constant, into your family life, personal life, whatever that might be. And with my first business, I didn't have a family. I had a wife, yes. In fact, no, I didn't. I was engaged. So very different stage of life to where I am now with teenagers. So I really wanted to just sort of touch on how I've managed that. Because for me, one of the greatest things about having your own business, one of the greatest things about being a founder, is the ability to control your own destiny, sure, in terms of your career, but also control your own life in terms of how you live it. And I don't think people talk about that enough. I think founders are always seen as people that have to sacrifice to get to a goal. And there's no question you do. But I want to talk about how there are so many benefits to that that are actually less of sacrifice and more just giving you control. And if you're a founder out there, you know control is everything. You're a control freak, that's why you're a founder. So let's get into it. So if you look at when I started, I would have been, 24, I think, 25, something like that. And at that stage of my life, probably going out a fair bit. Yes, I had just sort of met the girl who was going to become my wife, so I was spending a lot more time with her. I was doing a little bit of fitness, but probably not as much as I do now, which is interesting because I was younger, and I think you don't tend to take care of yourself as much, certainly not in my generation, as perhaps I do now. But for me, work-life harmony then was the business. It was completely the business. I was up early, I was in the office because everyone was in the office back then all the time. And I was working all the way through to the evening. And then I might have gone and met my wife-to-be for dinner, or I might have just gone home and gone for drinks or done whatever. So it was really easy. Work-life harmony for there was easy because I was throwing myself into a business. And I think when you are that age, you can. I think where the real control for me and the real value for me came along was when we had children. So having children is an experience that I'm sure many of you have been through, or many of you will go through, and it's like nothing you can describe. I'm not going to get into it because trying to sort of articulate what that feels like is impossible. But what it does do is it completely turns your world upside down. So you suddenly have this human being you have to look after. You have a wife who's incredibly emotional, tired, and needing your support. And you still have your business. How are you going to fit all of this together? The beautiful thing about being a founder is, one, you have no limits on your annual leave, you have no start time, you have no finish time. Whereas if you're in a job, particularly back sort of 15, 16 years ago, you're probably working 8 till 6, 9 till 5, something like that, 4 weeks holiday. There was no such thing as parental leave back then. So really you had to work out, how am I going to fit this in? And the reality was you couldn't. You had to go to work. You had to leave your wife alone. You weren't there. You couldn't do the sleepless nights. You couldn't stay up and give your wife a break. You couldn't get up in the middle of the night and give her a break, because if you did, it was going to impact your job, which was your sole source of income. So as an employee back then, having a child was not easy. For me, I loved it because I had complete control. I could work in the middle of the night if I wanted. I could give my wife relief. I could come home at a reasonable time, 3 in the afternoon if she was having a bad afternoon, help her out, and then potentially work later in the evening. I don't think enough people understand the benefit of that. I think people always look at the downside of that. You're working all the time, you never have a break. Yes, but also you have control to be able to do whatever you want. And I think as that goes on, and particularly if you haven't got children, now if you look at the way younger people live their lives, they're far more conscious about their health, they're far more conscious about going to the gym, swimming, work-life balance. Those guys have control as well, and that is, in my view, harmony. Now let me talk about how things changed as the children went to school. My wife went back to work. There was a whole bunch of stuff, and my wife was traveling a lot. She worked in the fashion industry. She would travel all over the world. Again, if I hadn't have been a founder and I didn't have, as we call it, work-life harmony, I wouldn't have been able to do what we did. I wouldn't have been able to look after the children. I wouldn't have been able to come home and pick them up from school when she was away traveling. We would have had to have paid someone else to do that, have a nanny, have a parent. We didn't have parents in the States, so they were all interstate, so that would have been very difficult for us. But again, as a founder, the flexibility to blend my life into my work was there. And this is just such a positive thing. I really wish people would talk about this more, which is entirely why we're doing this video. So any wannabe founders out there, or any founders who are struggling, I'm hoping that this is going to help you. So what I was able to do there was, when my wife was away, I could drop the kids at school, I could pick them up, and I could work all my hours outside of that. And even when my wife was home, I was able to come home, say 4 in the afternoon, hang out with my kids until they went to bed at 7, and then work 7 till midnight, 7 till 10, whatever it was. The ability, as I keep talking about, to control your life and weave the things that are important to you into your life around your work as a founder is completely unique. Remember that and think about how you can do that. So for me, I wasn't one of those dads who missed my children's upbringing. I was there all the time. I went to all the events. I went to the sporting. I was there most nights for dinner. Now, it's a little bit different, and we'll come to that in a second, but I think that luxury is just completely unique. Please remember that. I know I've said it a few times, but I really, really want it to hit home. So let's go right to now and where I'm going, because I think these are the interesting two parts as well. So I have teenagers now. They have no interest in me whatsoever, which is a fascinating experience as a parent, because you're so used to basing your life around them, and I had, as we've talked about, the luxury to be able to do that. Now, I almost feel like this freedom, because they don't need me. They can get to school. They don't want to see me in the evening. They're out with their friends. It doesn't really matter what they're doing. They're not interested in being with me. And so now I have this enormous amount of time where I can completely change my day. So rather than coming home early, having dinner with my kids, what I'm doing now is I'm getting up earlier. I'm doing some work in the morning. I'm getting up 5:30, I'm doing some writing, I'm maybe checking emails, and then I'm going and doing my exercise, and then I'm getting into the work later. So again, my whole life, my whole day has changed. Now it's about what I want as opposed to what the kids want. But yet again, and I will say it one more time, work-life harmony. Here I am being able to build my day around what works best for me to enable me to give my best self to the business. And again, now I can work late nights again. I can do the networking again. Look at this sort of life cycle, 15, 16 years, 18 years, 19 years, whatever it is, me running a business. I have completely changed the way I've lived my life, but I've been able to give my business what I believe is the best version of me, because I am weaving my life and creating a harmony between what I do and what I want to do and what I need to do to be able to really, really give my best to this business. And moving forward, you know, soon the kids will completely leave home. There'll be another change there for sure. So I think the real message here is, people talk about work-life balance. We talk a lot about that on Balance the Grind. People don't talk about work-life harmony. People talk about the hustle, but they don't talk about the benefits of the hustle. People talk about all these different things. I really wanted to do a video so that you guys out there can understand being a founder. Yes, it's a hard slog, but yes, it gives you control. But more than anything, gives you the ability to live your life in whatever way you want, and to constantly change with what's happening in your life, the loved ones of your life. It could be a parent, it could be a child. I mean, if it comes to a point where some of my parents or my wife's parents need help, again, I'm going to be able to pivot and change my life just like you would pivot in your business, to be able to give my best, be able to give what they need at that time, that's going to give me satisfaction in terms of I feel like I'm being a good human being, a good parent, a good son, but at the same time I'm giving my all. I am still a founder, still building this business, and I'm still giving it everything that it needs to, without feeling like I'm tied to it or it's a ball and chain around my leg. I know sometimes as a founder you get to that point where you do feel like you're almost trapped. You know, you're trying to build it to that level where the business doesn't need you, where you have to, you know, where you actually have that freedom. But this is my fourth business in fact. It takes a while with each one of these to get them to that stage where you do have that freedom. But don't think you haven't got the freedom. You have got the freedom. As with everything and as with every problem and everything in a founder's life, it's all about how you frame it. So stop thinking about work-life balance. Stop thinking about hustle. Think about work-life harmony. You have it, you're lucky, you just need to see it in the right way.